Sorry.
Welcome back to the Truth Hurts Show, where we expose corrupt politicians and the lying corporate media. We'll do a lot of that today on the show. We're broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, near Minneapolis, Minnesota, where all the bad things are happening. Greater Minnesota, way different story. Love people from Greater Minnesota. I know a lot of those people are in our comment section already on Rumble. And reading your comments today is Bridget. She's going to make sure if you do a Rumble rant, she's going to interrupt whatever we're talking about and read your Rumble rant. But we want to make sure you guys like this show on Rumble, YouTube, or wherever else you're watching. That tells the algorithm to share this with more people. And joining me, as usual, is Mega Jesse. What are we talking about today, Mega?
Oh, yeah, lots of good stuff here today. So, of course, Canada arresting a journalist. You know, no respect for free speech. We got the January 6th debate. There was a lot of good, interesting clips to run from there. We got the Epstein files. We've got Gene Pulowski, con artist, is now retiring. We got some good news. We got Mike Johnson and the secret deal, fundraising deal that he has done with Chuck Schumer. Got to call that out. And Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin missing in action. We'll call it all out.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's a crazy story. I can't wait to get to that. Bridget.
Yes.
Hi, Bridget. How you doing?
Great. Oh, oops. Tucker says, welcome back, Bridget. $5.
What happened to Bridget's light?
I'm working on it. Every time a Rumble rant comes in, since we're pointing at a TV, I have to change the brightness.
Yep, I see it. It makes sense. Well,
just
look at that,
change.
Tucker.
Wow.
Tucker ruining the show, or no, actually enhancing the show. Why would I say something like that?
Yeah, I don't know why you'd say that.
Yeah, he
Definitely
gave
enhancing the
$5.
What did he say? I can't, it's not on my screen for some
You
reason.
can't see that?
No, it's like off of it. So what does
It
Tucker
just
have to
says,
say?
welcome back, Bridget. You just
We're
heard
chopped
me
liver
read
next
that.
to you, Bridget, in
I
Tucker's
know.
world.
Gosh. We have other people in our comments as well.
Okay.
Kuda, Jam Teddy, 507 Patriot, MN, North MN, Dave's Right, JH Carnahan, and I think that's everyone.
By the way, I hope the chair and the tables still put together and there's not sticky buffalo sauce or anything
yeah,
on
I
that.
forgot
You know, that
Tucci
Tucci was
was
last
here.
one in there.
That was entertaining, though. I think he should join more often.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less drinking. Running the dials, as always, is Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson.
Hi, everybody.
Gonna play the devil's advocate today on our topics, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. There's some stuff in here that I have actual opinions about, which is crazy.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's get right into it. So we're not just talking about an arrest of a journalist, okay? That happens in America. We get it. This is at like the highest level. This is a journalist trying to talk to Canada's essential vice president. They call him a deputy prime minister because they're Canada and they do everything weird, right? Except for gravy with French fries. That actually makes a lot of sense in my book.
Oh,
But
I'm anti-poutine.
yeah,
Yeah,
really?
that's disgusting. You know,
Okay.
why ruin French fries and make them soggy? And yeah, anti that.
Yeah, but it goes really well, just like mashed potatoes and gravy.
Have you ever put chili on fries?
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah,
I don't
what
know.
about chili on fries?
I'm not a bean guy. You
Wait,
know?
what did you just say?
Ice cream with fries is actually really good. It's sweet and salty. It's so good.
I'm
really?
more with that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a thing.
like at Wendy's, you dip a Frosty. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
What?
That
You dip
happens.
fries in a Frosty and you have problems with gravy and fries?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a gravy guy, not a bean guy.
I think I have a lot of opinions on today's show.
And Tucker's on to me. Damn it. He's on to me. I'm a
Yeah.
poutine puppet. All right, anyhow, Canada. This is their vice president, essentially. What the hell's her name again? Like, we really care. So basically, you got Blackface, who's the president, Justin Trudeau, the son of Fidel Castro, right?
Yeah.
They're right?
Pretty much. You know, it might be. I don't know, but it could be. You know, he looks a lot like him.
Looks a lot like
You
him.
know, and they say his mom was a slut. You know, I don't know. That's what they say.
That's what they say. That's a Trump move right there. A lot of people say, not me, but a lot of people say. Chrystia Freeland. That's how Chrystia. Is that Christia or Christia? I don't know. I don't care. Just another crony politician, obviously from the left flank of Canadian politics, basically becoming a communist country over there. It's insane. So this is a independent journalist. Now, we're familiar with Rebel News because Rebel News has done some good reporting in Davos, right, against the World Economic Forum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the first times they were on my radar.
Yeah, and I think it was Rebel News who had asked the Pfizer CEO about his kids not getting it and all kinds of stuff like that. So Rebel News is, and same thing with who's the autistic climate change girl. Greta Thunberg,
Greta.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they confront her on some stuff, too. So Rebel News is pretty awesome.
Ezra Levant, the journalist, doing journalism. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break down this video for you if you haven't seen it. You also can go look at Action for Liberty on Twitter to get this video yourself. So let's go ahead and play this. Hey, pause it real quick. Dawson, the volume's really loud. Is there a way you can switch our window on here and move it to the left side on the screen? Because I think we're going to need to show people the right side. It's going to interfere with the blocking. There we go. Just like that. What a pro.
It's a hang.
It's a hang.
Whatever.
Okay, turn the volume down on our headsets here. Hey, by the way, if any of you guys out there want to be part of our production crew, we could use an audio guy. Dawson's like a monkey doing a gazillion things, and the audio is the one thing that we could use some help with.
That's the best way I could describe me. Yeah, is a monkey. Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Let's try
Thank God you're not black. I would probably get canceled like Roseanne, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's start it back over. So this is in the black dress is the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada.
Ms. Freeland, how come the IRGC is not a terrorist group? Why is your government supporting Islamo-nationalism? What? Excuse me. What are you doing?
You're under arrest for assault.
What, sir?
Why are you pushing me? You're under arrest for assault.
Who are you?
You're under arrest for
I don't
assault.
even know. What are you talking about? Police, you're under arrest for assault. How am I under arrest? You bumped into me. You pushed into me. You bumped. I was just scrubbing. I got my credentials here, and you just bumped into me. So excuse
Police, you're under arrest.
me. What is your
for
name and
pushing
your
me.
badge? What is your name and your badge?
You've been told you're under arrest.
Why am I under arrest? He blocked my way. What? I was just scrumming Christian Freeland.
I'm a police officer. You're under arrest.
What is your name and your badge number?
Assaulting a police officer.
How is that possible?
Okay? Because
You assaulted me 3 years ago when blackface was
that was very aggressive. What was happening?
You mean I was asking questions aggressively?
No, your actions were. You were almost pushing everybody over. That's how it appeared.
Lincoln, you got this on video, right? He's saying I'm pushing people over? That's an absolute falsehood.
There were feet were shuffling.
So now it appered that way. That's what you're saying, officer? It appeared I was
what I
pushing
saw.
people. I didn't touch a single person.
That was a little bit aggressive for what was happening. Get that. You're under arrest. Please
Okay.
take the microphone out of my face.
Well, I'd like an ongoing record of this.
Can I have the microphone? Can I have the microphone? Can I have the microphone? Can you give?
I'm not officer. Take your hand out. Why am I under arrest? I'm just doing my job.
Resist. You don't need to resist.
I don't have.
You don't have to say anything. You know the drill.
I have nothing to hide, officer. Welcome to Blackfaces Canada. This is what they do to journalists. I was merely scrumming Minister Freeland, and a RCMP officer blocked me, and evidently this is now a trumped-up charge of assault, folks. I didn't come here to cause any trouble. I came here to do my job, and now I'm handcuffed. This is your Canada now, folks. You know, this is the Gestapo taking Blackface's orders. Outrageous. And meanwhile, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is not a terrorist organization. Is not a terrorist organization. And these liberals have the audacity to show up at a vigil for a plane in which almost 200 people were killed, 57 Canadians, one unborn child, by the way. And look at this. They don't want, it is against the law in Blackfaces Canada to ask insensitive questions, impolite questions. So a Canadian government that props up an Islamo-fascist regime, that's okay. But if you ask questions about that, that's not okay. This is an absolute outrage. I didn't come here to cause trouble, folks. I just came here to ask questions.
You're gonna have to back up a little bit, okay? They're conducting an
That's my cameraman, sir. He's not doing anything.
No, I just want to provide some space so that everybody's safe here, okay?
Okay, so we've shown you an arrest of a what was he, 19 years old kid in Wisconsin. Basically talking about the Bible. We showed Gabe. I can't think.
Wrench.
Gabe Wrench. That was Idaho, right? Yep. So him being arrested during COVID protocols, and those are all alarming. But here, this is the second in command. This is basically Canada's vice president, and you have cops pull this game on someone asking legitimate questions. Now, Dawson, in a pre-show, you were kind of firing back. You were kind of taking a different side on this. Explain yourself and tell me where we're wrong on this.
So my main point that I was making was not that the police were in the wrong. I think it's ridiculous to arrest somebody over this. This, here, let me pull it up. This guy here, the bald dude, was absolutely trying to get something out of this guy, whether or not it was shoving him and then
And you agree he was setting him up, right?
He got in his way and then said that he was assaulted. You know,
Yeah,
it's the most BS thing in the world.
When you said set up initially, I was like, wait, so this whole thing is orchestrated? I was more so saying, like, this guy does not like this guy at all and just wants an excuse to arrest him or whatever.
Yeah, but my point in setting up, and we can go back and show this video, he is coming along, and there's this pole, and he positions himself right by the pole so that there's nothing but a chance to run into him.
Yeah.
It's like basically doing a
where was he
block.
supposed to go?
Yeah, he like almost like bumps him on purpose.
Yeah. Actually, it'd be really interesting to zoom in and
Looks
see
like
if
it.
he advances
Who makes
forward a little
contact
bit,
first, right?
right?
Right.
I mean, not that this really matters because it's a ridiculous claim that this is an assault.
Yeah,
Scroll back a little bit there, Dawson, real quick.
To arrest him for that is stupid, but I do think that this style of reporting,
Guerrilla journalism.
guerrilla journalism has its risks, and I think that this is one of those things where it's like, I don't think you should be arrested for it, but if you're gonna be in the face of somebody at like shoving a microphone up there and then again, I think this guy's ridiculous for what he's doing.
But
I
it's
don't
one of those
understand your
things, like, if you
point,
look
though.
at the U.S. Capitol, for example, if you go outside of the U.S. Capitol building, there's almost always reporters, especially if a representative or a senator is deep in the news where they just made some big news. They're going to be surrounded all the way until they get to their car. This is not like an uncommon thing. There's all kinds of reporters and journalists who are going to go up to public officials, ask them questions, and the public officials don't have they have the right to keep on walking and not answer any questions, but they don't have a right to have the journalist arrested simply for asking them those questions. And I can get what Dawson's saying, that it's not maybe the preferable way of journalism. What's the preferable way? A sit-down interview where it's a mutual, where both people are willing to sit down and talk.
And they're not going to do that,
But
though. That's
exactly,
why you gotta
that's
resort
why
to this.
that would never happen in this kind of situation. Do we expect that she would ever sit down with Rebel News? No way. So the only way that he can get answers is if he pulls stunts like this.
Well, does journalism like this ever end up like coming out with something good? Is this,
Yes.
Sometimes
you get the best
information,
stuff.
information exposure.
well, information of what? Like, this lady's not gonna. Is this a way to stress someone into saying something that they shouldn't
Well,
have?
it's putting
and then
them on the
gotcha?
record, right? Yeah. So, I mean, also, is it one of those things that you're going to catch someone off guard by trying to get an answer from them on the street? Yeah, I mean, that's part of the tactic. But, it's one of those things, like I'm saying, he won't be able to ask the question to her in any other capacity. Well,
hold on. This is the problem, Dawson, okay? The politicians, the political class, want to play this game. They want you playing the game. If there's anything for you guys to learn about Action for Liberty, we're going to teach you how the game is played and how not to play the game they want you to play, right? Like, for instance, one of the big techniques of a politician, anytime you confront a politician, they're going to go, listen, you and I need to sit down and talk about this, okay? Let's schedule a meeting. You know why they do that? Because you're causing pain to them in front of people, and they want to get you segregated so that you can have a one-on-one conversation. And if they can't speak reason to you and get you on their side, the damage is one-on-one. It's just one person. So they literally will say, let's go have a meeting. And people get duped by this all the time. Like, oh, I just got a meeting with a senator. I'm really mad, but I got a meeting with a senator. And the meeting might not go well, but what's the damage? One person. But when you do this in front of people and you do it on camera, you're now outside of their game, right? So that's this is why it's so important. So the only way that if you play their game, what they're going to do, I mean, they're never going to grant Rebel News a one-on-one sit-down. So the only game they possibly have is be part of a press conference where they get called on, and guess who's not going to get called on in that press conference? And anytime the questions get heated, they have a emergency fundraiser to attend, so they'll be out of there. So you can't. So that's the thing is, why does this kind of journalism happen? because it's outside of the game the political class wants you to
And
play.
most politicians, they won't answer questions unless they're being forced to unless they're being forced to answer it. It's only in that situation, because otherwise, they'll stay silent. They'll beat around the bush. Like you said, during those press conferences, almost all of the press people are designed to be there by the by the press corps. So the press corps is all the mainstream media who is going to continue to lie. It's all predetermined questions. Even in the U.S., it's like, who do we have in the White House press corps fighting for us? Peter Doocy? I mean, that's it? The Fox
Right.
News guy, that's pretty much it. And, Peter Doocy isn't even that great. He occasionally asks a couple of tough questions, but even Peter Doocy can't fully be trusted. So it shows how pathetic the state of our press is. And that's why I like organizations like Rebel News. They're not going to do everything right. They're not going to do everything perfectly. They're not even going to ask the questions that I necessarily care about all the time. But they're an outsider group who thinks for themselves, who are willing to take the shots. And for him to be willing to get arrested like he did, it shows that he truly cares about freedom and that he's trying to do the right thing.
I was just thinking there was another guy in the White House press corps, and it's that African
Yeah,
dude.
right. I was thinking about him too. I couldn't think of his
not
name.
Our country. So you're right. Your point's made. American press corps, no, but we have this African guy, and he gets shut down by Karine James Jean-Pierre, whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Go back to our Twitter account real quick. You can see I posted a meme of her. What is her name?
Karine Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre. Go back to our main account. You can't unsee this once you see this.
What the hell?
What are you doing to my camera there?
I have
Jeez.
never seen that happen before.
Oh, who's in control now? Scary.
I do not
Scroll
know
down
that.
there real quick, Dawson.
Sorry, guys.
T-Wall for Life says Ducey is required to submit questions in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another trick that they play, right? Keep going down. One more. There you go. Good luck getting that out of your head. You got to move my window back over on the right side. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an old bit off of the show In Living Color. That's like early 90s. It was really good.
North MN says, speaking of guests, can you guys get Royce White on the show? Want to see if he's legit.
Yeah, I did think about that actually the other day. Do you want to reach out to
Yeah,
Royce?
we could see
Royce?
if he's willing. Yeah, that'd be interesting because he's taking the fight to Klobuchar, so I'd be happy to talk with him.
He's getting ignored by the media. They act like
Yeah.
there's no candidate against Amy Klobuchar. Whatever you want to think about Royce White, he has announced that he's running. He is filed, right? He's filed with the FEC, right?
Yeah.
So he's filed with FEC, so he is a candidate, like legitimately. The guy did play in the NBA. He was a Cyclone. That's what I like him. I remember watching him play. God, the Cyclones used to have some pretty good teams in the tournament. All right. So anyhow, what I don't understand from your point, Dawson,
Yep.
you say there's risks involved with that kind of journalism.
Well,
but what's your point there? I don't understand. The whole argument we're making is how wrong it is for them to arrest a guy. And let's just be honest, they're setting him up. Now, I don't know if that was a...
Yep, and I'm not arguing that at all.
So what is your point, though?
Maybe that guy placed himself in a situation where he could potentially be arrested.
Yeah, that's the risk, right? Where it's like, this will probably go to court. I don't know how the hell Canada works, but
He said he's suing.
Yeah, then you sue them. You're not. You get paid back, and then it's like, there you go. Cops did the job wrong that
years
day.
later, and maybe you don't win.
Right, and that's a risk that you're willing to take being a journalist like this. So if he's going out there...
Okay, so Dawson, this is what I don't understand. This is why we call you deep state.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a risk.
What is your point? This is not a risk that you're supposed to have.
Right. My point is that him looking at the camera going, this is your Canada. This is what's happening. It's like, if somebody else bumped into a cop, that could probably happen to that person too. Just be like, if someone else was walking up to say he wasn't a reporter and he was like instead like getting up in her face like, how dare you do
But
this?
that's not that would be like harassment. That's not what we're talking about.
Is this
here.
not harassment?
No,
journalism?
he's a journalist. That is a journalist's
So
job.
That's what I don't like. The difference between harassment and journalism is
Why
whether
are
or
you
not
protecting
there's
public officials? I don't understand.
Is whether or not there's a
Yeah,
mic
but
in between them.
It's not harassment because it's her job to answer these questions to the press. A public official isn't obligated necessarily to answer every single question thrown at them from the media, but she is obligated to answer questions from the press. So he has a.
But she didn't want to answer questions right then.
What's that?
That wasn't a time to ask questions.
Who says who? Like, who gets to decide that?
I don't know. Her schedule.
Well,
But see,
it
then you're just
wasn't a
playing,
press
but then you're
conference,
playing
but-
right in their game. We determine when we can answer questions. That's not how the game's supposed to work in a free society.
I think that it comes down to you and me having different opinions on how public officials should be treated. Obviously you don't think that they shouldn't have human rights or whatever, but I don't think
I
that
never said that.
I don't think that their every waking second as a public official should be you're on the clock.
No,
you're
but
doing
she was
your job
coming
right
from
now.
a public event. It's
Right,
it's
it
not
just
like she
ended.
was just like going out getting a sandwich and heading back to her home or something.
Well,
like
who says she's not? The event ended, so
She's in the public.
so she can get harassed by journalists.
No, a journalist has the right to ask a question. Now, a journalist can cross the. She
Yeah.
can ask the journalist to leave, and then he can leave her alone.
Yeah.
Now that's going to look bad for her
Yeah.
because then it looks like she's not being transparent. But then, of course, if he continues on, it would go in that realm of harassment. But
and she
she's
could
just not
file a
answering.
restraining order and all kinds of things.
Right.
Like there's legal options if he was truly harassing her, but asking a question is not
Well,
harassment.
she's not going to file a restraining order in the 5 seconds that he's up there asking her questions.
Yeah, but if there's police officers, she can alert them. Hey, I'm asking him to leave. He's not leaving me alone. This is harassment, right?
yeah, it's just
Now,
doing things
it's
the right
going to have
way.
a public look on her that
Right.
she's avoiding questions, but she has, I think, a right to say
that's
that.
that's when I think that the cop that came in, the bald guy, that's where he just took over and said, "I'm doing my thing now." Like,
Right,
if
which is
things were to
problematic.
progress-
That law enforcement is literally arresting a journalist. I mean, granted, now Canada doesn't have the First Amendment protections we have in our country, but we still see this happening. And it's just so scary to see this happen right up north, I mean, granted, there's like 5 people in Canada, so maybe it's not the biggest deal in the world, but, it could come south of the border. Sorry, 500,000 people? How many people are in Canada? It's like 30 million? What is it, 40 million?
I
Something
don't
like
know.
that? I don't know.
idea.
More moose,
Yeah.
Tucker says public sidewalk, public official, First Amendment.
right?
which one's the First Amendment?
But that's the
speech?
problem. We're talking Canada, but yeah, no, I don't know if
First Amendment
it would be
protects
interesting
press.
to know. Yeah.
Oh, press is
Okay.
press.
There's 5 fundamental rights that are guaranteed in the First Amendment.
Brad Ganser says the journalist has every right to approach a public official in public to ask questions. And Razzle Dazzle says, correct to Odd One, who said public officials have a duty to the people to answer for their actions or policies.
I'm curious.
They work for us.
I'm curious how this will play out in Canada specifically, because I know that they don't have the Constitution, but
Yeah,
feels
I'm
like
looking
they
at
have
what
something
I'm
close.
looking at
What
what
is
Canada
Canada?
has here.
I mean, they
it
generally
says,
have
quote,
liberal views in the terms of pro-liberty, in terms
Right.
of freedom of press. But I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
I'm looking at. I'm not sure what this is. Section
like
2B.
that thing sure as shit was an assault. Nobody was assaulting anybody except for the police.
Yeah,
officer
well, that's the
on
point.
guy.
It was a setup.
right. So
Well, let's be honest. The setup is to stop him from asking questions, to stop being a journalist at that point. He's not saying you're arrested because you're a journalist. He's making up a bullshit excuse to arrest a journalist doing his job.
Okay, here we go. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Provision 2. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including the freedom of the press and other media communication. So
Yeah, the charter was.
they've got the freedom of press in Canada.
Wasn't that like an 80s era or 1970s era thing that came about in Canada? So it is relatively new. But yeah, they do. I forgot all about the charter. That's the extent of my knowledge of Canada.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm just
much
kidding.
about
I
this.
actually like Canada a lot. I mean, I feel so bad what's happening up there. A lot of good Canadian people outside of Toronto, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
I need to visit there someday. I've never been.
All right. I just don't know where you're going with that, Dawson, to just be honest with you. You're like, there's risks to be taken, and he's kind of wrong, but I'm not
Well,
going to say he's wrong.
There are risks to be taken as a journalist. That's just what journalism is.
Yeah, no, but you don't say that as if, okay, so we can excuse this behavior. It's so wrong what they're doing, and that's what worries me.
My ultimate point is that the whole entire situation did not need to get to that point where someone was getting arrested, and there's things that both sides could have done to have quelled that.
Oh, well, so what was he supposed to do that was different? That's what I'm curious. Like,
Don't get in her face as much. Walk next to her, but you don't have to. Obviously,
are you saying
is
the
in way.
proximity of the microphone to her face? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's go back and watch this video here.
Oh gosh.
You don't need volume. I don't
making
know
it.
if that was anything that was out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
When you're a public official, you will get microphones stuck in your face. That is understood. What are you
that's
talking
not-
about? That's a legitimate distance.
Yeah, that is.
No, he gets assaulted by the cop or whoever the hell.
Right, this
dude
right.
is.
This I don't think is fair. I don't think that that's good. I don't think it's couth to do this kind of thing.
I think it's completely okay what he's doing.
You also don't like public officials, though.
Correct. Yes.
I-
but that's it. We
I
should
am
be leery of
indifferent to
public
them.
officials, Dawson.
I'm indifferent to public officials. I think that you
You
shouldn't
think they're
be allowed
you think
to
they're
have
angels
this
doing
happening.
the work of,
That's not what I
Lord's work?
said. That's a straw man.
I mean, I'm just asking. Like, I generally think that these people, well, it's the old adage that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So people in powerful positions need to be open, transparent, and the only way to do that is to have a free press. So because I mean, let's be honest, she's probably bad. I don't know enough. I didn't even know who the hell she was.
No, I don't know.
I didn't even
know
know Canada had a deputy prime minister. I'm just kidding. I knew that. But I didn't know who she was. I assumed it wasn't even good because no one would be good under Trudeau. But, you have a right to interview that person because that person could end up using the power for bad means. And I know Trudeau gets the blame, but last I checked, there wasn't a deputy prime minister of Canada talking about the illegal war that Trudeau had on the truckers.
I mean, sure, you have a right to interview someone, but that same person should have the right to say, I'm not doing an interview right now.
Yeah,
J.M. Teddy
we
said
agree.
she's a Satanist.
A Satanist?
Is that for real?
Oh, I don't know.
J.M. Teddy
No.
says that?
Who said that?
J.M. Teddy in the comments.
But yeah, no, Dawson, I agree. She has the right to refuse an interview, but that doesn't mean that she has the right to, get him arrested, which, obviously was the cop.
She wasn't getting him arrested.
No,
that was the cop. being
did
stupid.
that.
Well, we
you
don't
know,
know
but,
that.
I mean-
well, no, I mean, that's the scary thing. That's kind of what I want to highlight. It could have actually been the case.
Well, now now it was all a setup. To
I have no
bait
proof. I have
this
no
guy
proof.
in.
It was clear he was setting up. Now he might have just taken the action in his own hands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they have some history together. It sounds like the journalist and this cop have run into each other, like he said in the video.
3
You
years
assaulted me
ago.
3 years ago, so
Yeah, I
obviously
think it
there's a
could've
little
been
bit of
his own
history there. So obviously that cop recognized him and said, we're not letting this happen again. So
Let's go to the comment section here.
Brad says Dawson's naive. The cops had every intention of arresting him. And Razzle Dazzle says that's why he's deep state Dawson.
That's right. And see, this is so so the reason we call him Deep State Dawson is when we were in Vegas looking at studio equipment, he's like, I wanted to join the CIA when I was younger. And we go, that's always what the people that join the CIA and don't tell people they join the CIA say, right? So that's what we assume is he's working for the mothership. And that's why he's defending the public officials, right? That's your job, isn't it, Dawson?
If
that's
I was
really
if I was defending the mothership, I wouldn't be renting a room out of a friend's house for $400 a month.
I know, but you got to give up appearances. You got if you had this unexplained wealth like Jeffrey Epstein, we would be like, wait a second, what's going on here?
I almost said I wish I had wealth like Jeffrey Epstein, but I don't. So I'm happy with not that.
yeah.
You're happy with nothing. Yeah.
But yeah, in theory, obviously, like it's should public officials be treated horribly? In theory, no. But we're in a spot where almost every single public official isn't working on behalf of the public. They work for their own interests, not for the people. So I'm always happy to see anybody get called out on that kind of stuff.
Even if they are working, they're angels and stuff like that. We have to be realistic about how people can fall prey to sin, can fall prey to corruption. Go ahead.
Yeah, if
We
you don't have a free
$5
press.
Rumble rant from Brad. He says Dawson won't talk about Fight Club either.
That's a great point. By,
I
Brad
have
Ganser.
I have never seen that movie before.
Sure.
Sounds
sure he
right.
hasn't.
Yeah,
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
I haven't.
Yep.
I know that Matt Damon, I think, is in it.
Nope. See? Oh, I thought Matt Damon was in it. See, I've never seen the movie. I know it's Brad Pitt. Edward Norton.
Is it Brad Pitt? Okay.
Oh, sure. See? He's a good actor. You got to give it to Dawson. Good acting there, Dawson. Very good.
I'm a good devil's advocate.
He's also going to go against us when we talk about Epstein's Island. You can't wait to hear his hot take on that.
That's way out of context. Oh my gosh.
Oh, we had a lively pre-show.
You wouldn't believe the opinions Dawson has about Epstein's Island. He says it's great.
We'll just dangle that
Yeah.
out there. If we can't get it to on this show, just go with what I said. Dawson doesn't agree with us on Epstein's Island. All right, let's move on. So there was an interesting debate. I really don't want to move on, but I think I should. Should I move on? I really
I
want
think
to
it's
beat
time.
that point to death, but We'll talk. We'll discuss this again in the future, and
Yeah.
I will continue to dominate you like Alex Jones dominated the
Destiny.
Dude, I think I've heard him. I'm not all the way through the debate. I've watched him say that 4 times now, and it's just like
it's hilarious. Like,
repetition.
I think Alex Jones is a damn entertaining guy. All right. I think he talks to some senior level government officials who probably are patriotic and leak information to him. And that's how he's able to find stuff like the war in Russia or in Ukraine ahead of everyone else knowing, and bin Laden was going to fly planes into buildings. Because, the guy's had some really crazy predictions that he's gotten right, and there's really no good explanation for it, in my opinion. But the dude's like, he's kind of a child. Like, when you watch him debate, it's like, gosh, you're not really
so
helping
weird.
yourself here.
It's so weird.
But damn entertaining. The adult in the room was Glenn Greenwald. I want to bring some of the comments he had to say. So this was hosted by Zero Hedge. By the way, if we get big enough, maybe we'll fill this void too, right? Zero Hedge is doing something really interesting. They're using Twitter, X, which is not the best platform, but Elon Musk will probably get it right in a year or two. It's just kind of hard because it was like 3 or 4 hours. So I'm going to watch this thing over time, I got things going on. And so I got to pause it, come back to it later. And there's not a good way in X, where in YouTube it'll remember your spot. So anyhow, they're hosting debates that are basically you're not getting from the corporate media. Okay, first debate they hosted. I think this is the first one. I think they've only done 2. They did one on Israel, the Israel-Hamas war, and they had Laura Loomer being the pro-Israel standpoint, and
Dave Smith.
Dave Smith as the common sense. I'll put the common sense standpoint, right? Because it's not like a pro-Hamas person. Maybe that would have been fun and spicy to add that to the debate. Dave Smith did a fantastic job on that. Then this debate, which we seem to not be able to have in the corporate media, was January 6th, an insurrection. So they have 3 lefties, 2 which are twin brothers. They're weirdos. Krasensteins. I've never heard of these guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Destiny. And you know who Destiny is because he's a gamer, right?
Yeah, I watch his political stuff too, though.
Yeah, no wonder why you take the opposite standpoint of us.
I also watch Steven Crowder's stuff.
Yeah, okay, there you
And
go.
Ben Shapiro.
This guy is just so smug. I couldn't stand listening to the guy, but it is what it is. They had a lefty on there. So on the red team, so to speak, they've got Alex Jones, who kind of, it was kind of interesting to watch. I didn't say he did a great job. A guy I didn't know, Daryl Betty, very smart, intelligent guy. Didn't speak. He probably spoke the least of everyone that was there.
Yeah.
And then coming in via Zoom was Glenn Greenwald, the famous journalist who actually comes from the left, the old left, but famous journalist who broke the Edward Snowden story. Glenn Greenwald has just got it. I am so glad we have people like that out there telling truthful stories and doing investigative journalism because it's like a dying breed. So anyhow, there's some comments here by Glenn Greenwald, who once again, not some far righty. Glenn Greenwald, not a far righty, right? But definitely like open-minded and pursuing the truth and investigative journalist. So I want to share. Let's go to the first one where he's talking about the actual question for this debate. Sorry, we got to share Destiny's feed because it's only on Twitter, and the only place it is on YouTube was on Destiny's channel. Sucks that we have to give him views, but it is what it is. So this is Glenn Greenwald talking about how January 6th was not an insurrection.
Destiny and what Ed are saying are very important. First of all, I was going to say that I think one of the problems with how these things are debated is that a lot of people these days have very binary prisms for understanding things. A lot of that comes from YouTube debate where you have to declare yourself on one side or the other. So Destiny said, oh, everybody either hates this insurrection, thinks it's an insurrection, or they deny it happens, or they think it's good. And there's so much middle ground. Namely that for me, this was a political protest that spilled over into a riot where a small minority of the people engaged in violence. I don't think we want to urge that to happen. We don't want to defend that. I consider that lamentable. But the fact that it's laughable to call this an insurrection is actually demonstrated by the examples that they're using. This was a 3-hour riot that was extremely easily subdued. It doesn't remotely compare to any prior insurrections, let alone to the Civil War. The only people who were killed on January 6th were 4 people, all 4 of whom were Trump supporters, 2 of whom dropped dead of a heart attack and 1 from a speed overdose, because these were not exactly a well-trained militia. And when Jack Smith went to charge Donald Trump with multiple crimes, he had a lot of options to charge him with, and he charged him with a lot of crimes, including very dubious ones. He did not charge him with inciting an insurrection for reasons that I think we ought to ask ourselves why. But the fact that this is such a minor event in history is demonstrated by the fact that the media, who needed this to be a major event, immediately started lying about what happened, saying that Brian Sicknick was murdered when he had his head bashed in through a fire with a fire extinguisher, only to learn that actually he called his mother that night. He was fine. He died the next day of what the coroner said were natural causes, because the media knew that if you can't say that even one person supposedly perpetrating the insurrection killed anybody, pulled out a gun, let alone discharged a weapon, all of which is true, it's a joke to call this an insurrection. At best, it's a riot. And that's the reason why Trump hasn't been charged with an insurrection. The only time he ever commented on January 6th about whether he thought there should be violence or not was when he said the following. He said, "I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." He urged them to be peaceful in how they went there. To the extent there was violence, I think you can make the argument that the FBI informants that even the New York Times admits were there were the ones that urged it. But even if the people who were there were the ones responsible, at best this is a riot. You could so easily make the case that the 2020 riots were a far greater insurrectionary threat than anything that happened on January 6th.
Okay, that is like, yes, right? That is the most clear thinking, rational viewpoint you could possibly have on that day. I mean, am I wrong on that, Dawson? Maybe you're taking the state's viewpoint on that one too.
I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. Very rational, nuanced, and everything, in the sense that you have to condemn the people that caused violence that day. You know, and just like any riots, that's the problem with the riot, is there's violence that spews out of it. You want peaceful protests, right? And so there was definitely people that took things in their own hands, and a lot of those people deserve to be prosecuted. And those people are like, what, 30 to 70 people that actually committed violence that day? It was not a lot of people, right? It's a very few amount of people. A lot of other people, whether thousands of people being prosecuted, are for nonviolent crimes. There was no firearms discharged, I don't even brandished, other than Capitol Police, who literally shot and killed someone. So there was no firearms. Now, one of these lefties made the argument, but there was like 30-some people that had weapons. They had weapons, right? Well, let's be honest. They don't want any of us having weapons, you know, really deep down inside. But there was no use of a weapon, from what I understand, other than using like the gate as a weapon, and those people should be prosecuted. But if this was an insurrection, where the hell are the firearms and the teams moving forward to stop this proceeding from happening? Instead, you get a guy with a crazy buffalo skull that goes to the House floor and kind of walks around and jokes around like, oh, I can't believe we made it here. You know, I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah, there were only 2 coordinated things. One was Trump saying, be peaceful, march to the Capitol, make your voices heard. And 2 was by the feds, you know, the Ray Epps of the world, the agent provocateurs who were telling people to get riled up, to enter inside the Capitol building, to break the windows down. So that's what the feds were out there trying to push people to do. While Trump, what was he saying? Stay calm, stay peaceful, march to the Capitol.
But he said fight like hell, Jesse.
Yeah.
What about fight like hell? Don't you understand?
They've got to try to twist his words, because his words alone don't mean his words alone don't mean to storm the Capitol building. He was never encouraging people to do that.
It was the perfect speech. Perfect call, perfect speech.
It was a very normal speech, you know. He basically was telling people what we had already known the entire time. The election was stolen. Go out there, make your voice heard, and don't be violent, because that's not who we are. We're not the left. We're not Antifa. We're not BLM. And the majority of conservatives and the majority of patriots that were there followed through on that lesson. It's only a small number of people who got a little crazy, who got a little rowdy, and it was because of the feds who were pushing them to do so.
And I'm going to get into that in just a second, because this Daryl Betty does a really good job explaining who Ray Epps was. But here's the point, and I think Glenn made this, or someone else made it. Once again, the left is they've lost their freaking minds. They've lost their minds on a lot of things. But here's the deal. They keep talking about, yes, but look, he's clearly guilty of an insurrection because he tried to overturn the results of the election, And the only recourse you have is Supreme Court, and they cite like 2000, which went to Supreme Court.
Yeah, and he wasn't
But
trying
a
to
legal
overturn.
recourse is also the counting of the Electoral College, right? That is, Congress is a legal recourse. There is a legal process to electing the president, and that was happening in Congress. So if you think the election was stolen, Donald Trump believes the election was stolen. Actually, you know what? The left's lost their mind. They actually think Donald Trump didn't believe it and was lying to people. That's how crazy and nutty these people are.
Yeah.
That's their defense. In fact, that's actually the defense by I can't even remember the prosecutor now in Fulton
Jack
County.
Smith or Fannie Willis.
Fannie Willis, because it's like hard to keep track of all these people going after him.
Yeah.
So that's their defense, is Trump actually knew that the election wasn't stolen. He was lying to people. He believed the election was stolen. Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah.
And so there are legal recourses, and the Supreme Court's not the only legal recourse. There's a count. Now, what should have happened there? That's a different question, but he had a legal recourse. So there's no guns. They're not overtaking it. And later on, Glenn Greenwald makes a great point because they start saying this was a coup. It's like, what coup?
Yeah.
There was no firearms. The military was not activated to overthrow the incoming government. And do you know what happened on January 20th? Trump, he didn't want to attend the inauguration. Can't blame the guy if you think the election was stolen, by the way.
Yeah.
He left peacefully, went back to, I think he went to Mar-a-Lago that day.
Mm-hmm.
What are they talking about? Insurrection. He
It's so
peacefully left office.
They say, we can't let Trump get back in there. He's never going to leave the White House. He left before when he thought the election was rigged against him. So if he's willing to leave under those situations, he's, of course, going to leave at the end of his second term.
Right.
So they're saying this kind of stuff because they want to make Trump out to be something that he's not. They want to pretend like he's a dictator, even though we all experienced 4 years under him. We all knew exactly what he was, and he's not a dictator. So it shows how desperate they are. That's all they have. That's the only way that they can beat him because Joe Biden's got dementia. The only way that they can win is if they convince the American people, if the American people are dumb enough to believe it, that Trump was trying to steal the election and that January 6th was an insurrection, except for the fact that Trump never was trying to steal an election. What was he doing? He was calling on these states to be investigated so that we could see if there was true voter fraud going on within there. If there was, then we'd be in a whole different situation. But these secretaries of state, the U.S. senators, the U.S. representatives, they didn't want a true investigation. They did not want to dig into it. They did not want to see if there was fraud in the U.S. election. And that's why a lot of patriots still question if our elections are fair at all, because they wouldn't allow us to have a real investigation and uncover the truth.
That's right. Okay, so who's Ray Epps? I see a lot of comments here about feds. Let's go to a couple comments here.
Yeah, MAGA Forever says Ray Epps sentenced, no jail time, 1 year probation, $500
That was
fine,
breaking. I think that's breaking news
100
today, by
hours
the way.
community service.
Yeah, I think that's breaking news. I think that just came down
Yeah.
today. Ray Epps is not actually going to jail.
Just 1 year probation. Dang. K-Wall for Life says Tim Kaine's kid did $100K damage to our Minnesota State Capitol in December 2016 after Trump was certified. Funny how that wasn't an insurrection.
What? Yeah, that is a really good point. Who had that point?
K-Wall.
Thank you, K-Wall. Tim Kaine's son, did he go to jail for that? Senator Kaine's son placed on probation in Minnesota. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah, I forgot
100K.
about that story.
Yep, so that was the former... Actually, is Tim Kaine still senator?
He's still a U.S. senator, and yeah, he was Hillary Clinton's VP candidate and everything, and he's running for re-election again this year. So
He pleaded guilty to charge of obstructing... This is according to News Radio Wina, W-I-N-A. Linwood Woody Kane, that's his name, of Minneapolis, was among 8 people arrested in the St. Paul rally in March. He pleaded guilty to charge of obstructing the legal process, received a 90-day sentence with 86 days suspended. He served 4 days. Oh, he actually did serve 4 days in jail. 2 other misdemeanor charges were dismissed December 11th. Yeah. Let's see here. A criminal complaint said Kane and others charged him to block clothing during the rally and entered the Capitol. One person threw a smoke bomb. The complaint said Kane was among those who ran away and resisted arrest. And resisted arrest too, right? Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't know how much do you throw a book at that guy? I'm not certain. I mean, yeah, the point is very well made, but once again, it'd be like us saying this guy was causing tons of damage. I think our government did just fine, by the way. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to Daryl Betty talking about who Ray Epps is, because we brought it up on the show before. This, in my opinion, was one of the big reasons Tucker Carlson got fired. I'm so glad I've said a lot of things on this show that end up coming true. And one of the things I kept saying was, I can't believe Tucker Carlson is still hired by Fox News. This is going to get him fired, right? And eventually, then it just all abruptly ended on a Monday. One of those things that he did was basically did a segment on who Ray Epps is. And then we talked, I think we went through the puff piece that CBS 60 Minutes did. But who is Ray Epps? This guy is the Daryl writes for the Revolver News, and they did the most in-depth piece on Ray Epps. So listen to this. This is really interesting.
So
no, I mean, you guys want to hear the argument for federal involvement or not?
go for it. Yeah.
Not really. Okay.
I want to hear it.
All right. Well, there's a lot of dimensions to it. We can start with.
Well, just stop right there,
the
real quick. Okay, so that's Destiny. Just back up one. Just hit the back one there. If you do the arrow.
I can't. Yeah, I know that. I can't do it on this computer.
Oh, you can't? Okay. I wanted to show Destiny. This crummy dude. I just cannot stand that guy.
I just put a link in the show notes of something with him and Jesse Lee Peterson if we get some time.
This guy.
that guy right there. I mean, that just looks like you're an obnoxious lefty. So he goes, do you guys really want to hear the involvement of the feds? And the two guys on the left, which weren't as, I mean, I have some issues, but not as bad as this Destiny guy. They're like, yeah, this guy literally says no. I think everyone should be really curious if the feds are investigating. By the way, the other thing the left does on this show, it's like they didn't know their audience here. They go, well, what about the feds' involvement in like the BLM riots? As if, we got you. And it's like Alex Jones and gang are really interested in that story too.
Yeah.
Because they were, right? There seems to be a lot of evidence that there were feds involved in the Minneapolis rioting. And the question is why, right? My belief is to cause instability in our society.
When it comes,
and then also to get names, maybe there's some good purpose to it to see, who's causing the trouble here at these BLM riots. So
what do you say, Dawson?
I've watched quite a few Destiny debates at this point, and one of the downfalls that he has on debating is that he mirrors the respect that he's getting really hard. Like, he'll go and sit down, and if people are just like monotone the whole time, he'll do that, but him speaking up like this, saying, no, I don't want to hear about that, is right after Alex Jones next to him going crazy for, I don't know, a minute or something.
I don't know. To me, I just get like David Pakman type vibes from Destiny, where it's just like, you think you know everything, you think you're better than everyone, and you're not.
Definitely a little bit for sure.
Okay.
But don't worry, because his wife that he had an open relationship with, and him just got divorced.
Wait a second. Okay, so you said he's got an open relationship with his wife, meaning like they were swingers, or not even swingers? I guess they just,
did the dirty with other people.
They did the dirty with others.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that means he's a cuck, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, does that
By
mean he has to watch?
No. Yeah.
Yeah. He probably does. Like.
No.
Yeah. I mean, as if I didn't already. And this is like, you know this because he was talking about it on the show, or how do you know this?
He's
talked about.
He's a
before.
Twitch streamer. He's super, like, his whole life is out there.
It's like my read. I didn't even know this stuff. My read on this guy was exactly confirmed right there. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. Yeah. All right. Well, anyhow, let's get back to the issue at hand. Who is Ray Epps?
I want to hear it.
All right. Well, there's a lot of dimensions to it. We can start with the Ray Epps issue. Here's a guy, you saw that was only part of the clip. There's much longer clips about Ray Epps, but here's a guy who's the only guy caught on camera as early as January 5th, repeatedly calling for people to go into the Capitol and prefacing his seemingly rehearsed remarks in each case, saying, I'm probably going to go to jail for this. I'm probably going to get arrested for this. You need to go into the Capitol. The next day, he flew across the whole country, presumably to go hear Trump's speech. He skipped Trump's speech. Instead, he was a veritable Where's Waldo everywhere on January 6th, directing people, go into the Capitol. It's in that direction. That's where our problems are. Then, amazingly, he's pre-positioned right at that initial decisive breach point on the west perimeter of the Capitol, and he's whispering into somebody's ear just seconds before the bike racks are broken through. He texts his nephew, I orchestrated it. On paper, think about it, he's like a 6'3", former Marine who was wearing camo gear and a Trump hat, and he just happens to have had a leadership position in the Oath Keepers, the most demonized and heavily prosecuted.
He used to, right? He doesn't.
He
didn't anymore.
The most demonized and heavily prosecuted militia group associated with January 6th. And the regime doesn't touch him. However, initially, his behavior was considered to be so egregious, he was one of the first 20 people added to the FBI's most wanted list about January 6th. He was prominently featured in the New York Times' ominously titled Day of Rage. Of all the clips the New York Times could have found and chosen, they chose Ray Epps to represent their thesis that this was a pre-planned insurrection to storm the Capitol. And then when the discussion of federal involvement came into being, one of our major pieces at Revolver News, literally the next day is when the FBI quietly removed him from their list. And all of a sudden, he went from FBI's most wanted and featured in the New York Times' Day of Rage to New York Times does a fully dedicated puff piece on him. 60 Minutes does a sympathy segment on him. He's the only January 6th participant that Adam Kinzinger, who's never met a Trump supporter he doesn't want to see rotting in jail for 50 years, that Adam Kinzinger will defend more aggressively than Epps' own lawyers. And now, almost 3 years after, the government finally says, okay, we're going to hit you with a wrist slap misdemeanor, as though people are so simple-minded to think, well, if the argument is hasn't been indicted, therefore he's a Fed, if we indict him now, even if it's a misdemeanor, even 3 years after, no matter what the circumstances, this constitutes a refutation and totally wipes away the mountains of suspicious evidence surrounding the character of Ray Epps. That's just the case of Epps. There are many other things.
Okay, all right,
sure.
And we'll stop there. We have
a Rumble rant from KWAL for Life, $24, down payment on a full year of content from A4L and 24.
Oh, I love
Nice.
it. Thank you very much. We got some big stories coming up here. I think Tuesday's show, unless we do a Monday evening Iowa caucus returns. I don't know. We'll have to discuss as a team afterwards. But some big news coming, and 24 for Truth Hurts. Lots of news. Can't talk about it yet. Okay. Ray Epps. Why I think it's so important is because it seems to me that it's known at this point that FBI and other federal agencies had people on the ground here. Do you think anyone's disputing that? Jesse, you're probably the most involved in this subject of all of us, at least on the...
Yeah, I don't think there's any denial that there were, federal agents who were on the, at the Capitol who were pushing people to do stuff. I mean, there's no denying that at this point.
Well, that's probably
what's interesting is,
contended by some on the left that they're pushing them to do stuff, but they at least believe they were in the...
There were some, right. And, what's interesting is, the real patriots who were there, like Alex Jones, was telling people, do not go in the Capitol. This is a trap. Don't fall for it. They want to make us look violent. That's where a lot of patriots should have been. That's how people should have been acting. I get some people make mistakes, but it doesn't help when you have people like Ray Epps who are telling people to go inside to cause all these problems. And, exactly like was being said in that debate there, it's like he gets a misdemeanor and we're supposed to believe that that's fair while, innocent people are rotting in jail because of this. I'm not falling for it. I think it's total BS.
And by the way, this is Saturday. This is when this debate happened. It happened the evening of January 6th. I didn't get to watch live. I was doing something that night. So they don't even know. This just came down today that Ray Epps has only gotten a year of probation, so he's not going to spend a day in jail.
Mm-hmm. What did he do that was illegal?
Well,
again?
He was telling people to go inside the Capitol. He was telling people, we're going inside. We're heading inside the Capitol. He was riling people up. So, if anybody was causing an insurrection, it was Ray Epps.
But
Ray Epps was the one telling people to do it.
But there was no insurrection.
But
but
he was the one instructing their criminal activity.
Let me expand on that. He pled guilty in September to a misdemeanor charge, which was, I thought I was going to say this is APM watching. He pled guilty to disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building. That's what he pled to. Disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, because he didn't enter the building. Have you ever even heard of such a stupid charge? Disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds sounds like the most vague thing you could charge someone with. Which, by the way, they're charging a lot of people with vague stuff. All right, so that's what he pled to, and this is according to AP. I'm just reading it. He received no jail time, and there were no restrictions placed on his travel during his probation, but he will have to serve 100 hours of community service. What does probation mean if you can travel anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
He appeared remotely by video conference and wasn't in Washington, D.C. courtroom. Convenient. Ooh. So that's Ray Epps, what he gets. Okay, so the point I think Jesse's trying to make here, right? So we are led to believe this was an insurrection, a day that is parallel with, as you heard early in the debate, if you watch it, 9/11 and Pearl Harbor.
Well, that was coming from Alex Jones. And
No, that was coming from these bozos on the left.
I don't think that any of them said that.
Yeah, just watch it again. I mean, they're acknowledging the fact that this was I don't think they eventually admitted it was as bad.
They called it
but
a
they were
stain
putting it
on
on like
democracy.
a level close to those.
They were saying specifically, like in terms of people dying. No.
Because they're calling it an insurrection, right? So if this was
Yeah.
an insurrection in the history of America, how many insurrections were there? And they basically think the Civil War was an insurrection, and I don't think they really believe any other insurrections have occurred.
I can't remember.
Well, they did. They had
were
a
talking
debate
about
about
some
L.A.,
other thing.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, the L.A. riots. So if this was such an awful day, and that's what the media tells us to believe, it's an awful day. We're embarrassed. Our country was almost overthrown. Da. They even go on to argue it was a coup d'etat. That's their argument. If that's the case, then somebody who is seen and caught on camera urging people to go participate in the insurrection, they have more on Ray Epps than they have on Donald Trump. You know, their argument on Donald Trump is so ridiculous. It's so clearly a free speech issue. He thinks election's stolen. Someone takes it in their own hands to go into the Capitol grounds to supposedly cause an insurrection and stop the government from voting the way that they want to vote, or the way that it's supposed to, or the official proceeding. We'll just say the official proceeding. That's such a far stretch. Here's Ray Epps. He's not just saying he thinks election's stolen. He's telling people to go in there, knowing it's restricted grounds. By the way, audience members or people going, hey, that's a Fed. There's a video going, Fed. This guy should be target number one by the left as one of the awful people who perpetrated this heinous attack.
Yeah.
There's a guy who wasn't even there on January 6th who got the longest sentence, 22 years in prison. Okay? But Ray Epps, he gets probation. And I don't even know what probation means when you can travel. Like, he got nothing. He's got why are we saying probation? He got 100 hours of community service. That's what he got, and he had to pay like a $500 fine, which I'm sure was from the CIA's drug trade. So, actually, I don't think he's working for the CIA. And I don't think he worked for the FBI. You know?
Yeah, I
He
don't
worked
know.
for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I think, Dawson.
I'm more confused about, because I don't know the entire story, but if no insurrection happened, then he didn't get very much time because there was no insurrection.
Oh, 100%. I would agree that if you were just assuming Ray Epps was not a Fed trying to instigate something, I agree. Probably the crime fits the punishment fits the crime, I guess. Or that's not the word I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying?
Close enough, yeah.
Like, he shouldn't get much, right? Okay.
But instead, he is a Fed.
Yes. No. What I'm saying is the left has made us believe, and this is the argument they're trying to make, is it's an insurrection.
Yeah.
So if there is a guy that should be thrown into prison, it should be Ray Epps, because here's the guy literally caught on video pushing people. He's at the initial breach point. So that's what makes me say this guy is working for someone else. The left doesn't care because they kind of probably know as well.
The left wing base, they have no idea. They don't
guess.
even, most of them don't even take the time to research anything. Most of them, they don't even know anything about January 6th. And then the media and the Democratic politicians, I think they don't even fully understand why they're defending Ray Epps. They just know that that's what they're supposed to do. They don't fully get it, and they probably haven't dug into all of it all the way.
No.
But they just know that that's the line. For some reason, he's exempt, and they're not going to explain why. They're not going to explain how they got to that decision. It's just the way that things are with them. And I don't understand it, because you're right. If anybody deserved to be charged, it was Ray Epps.
Do you think it was an insurrection, Dawson? I know you didn't get a chance to watch the whole debate.
Yeah, I'm like halfway through it. It seemed like the main issue that they were coming across with was that there's like several different things that an insurrection could mean. So it's like the library definition, like the definition in a book or the legal definition. I don't know anything about them, so I don't think I can really say one way or another. I don't think that the whole entire thing was caused by Trump.
What would you just say?
I definitely don't think that the whole entire thing was like orchestrated by Trump.
Okay, so you don't think Trump's guilty of an insurrection? Because that was going to be my follow-up question. Let's say in the hands of a couple people there, they actually believed what they were doing was committing an insurrection. Did Donald? Well, we'll go to Brad Ganser real quick.
Oh, I didn't see that. Sorry, I'm not there. Brad, worst insurrection ever, $5.
That is the worst insurrection ever, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say a couple people there believed what they were doing was committing an insurrection. In the grand scheme of things, pretty ridiculous. Like Brad said, if that's what they were trying to do, very bad job at doing that, okay? Yeah. The question is, did Donald Trump perpetrate it? Because this is the whole reason we're having this debate in the first place, is Donald Trump is being removed from ballots currently in Maine, which is unilateral by Secretary of State, in Colorado. Now the Supreme Court's going to take this up because of the 14th Amendment saying an insurrectionist cannot run for the office of the presidency.
Yeah,
actually, it says
they'll try again in Minnesota. You know, they're going to try again for the general.
Yeah, they left it open.
They left it open, right? You know, so for the primary, they're putting them on the ballot, but you know, get ready for the general because they're pushing this again.
Well, and the Supreme Court's going to probably weigh in, and it won't matter then, right? But
hopefully,
yeah. So that's the reason we're having this debate. So my question to you, Dawson, is: did Donald Trump orchestrate an insurrection, or did he try? Did he make an attempt at creating an insurrection?
I will have to study it more, but specifically from January 6th stuff, I don't think that Trump did it. Even if half of them went there thinking we're insurrectionists, I don't think that can be Donald Trump causing the whole thing. There were a bunch of people there that were saying Trump told us to come and do this, but if I'm a streamer, if I like said a joke and then people are like, "Oh, let's go do that," that'd be funny. That's not me actively causing this thing on purpose.
Yeah.
I think that it's up for. I'm gonna have to agree with Destiny. I think, which is it's up to the Supreme Court. Like, I don't think that any of us can have the right answer.
You know, I think that's such a terrible idea that it's left up to the Supreme Court. I think it should be left up to the people to decide who they want to vote for, and especially when you're the leading presidential candidate. To say 9 judges. 9-robed gangsters.
Yeah, I think if it was a
decide.
real insurrection, Trump wouldn't have a chance.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if
That's
it was
a great
if it
point.
was
Yeah,
like
like
if it
even
was a
people like us would
violent
be like, no.
uprising thing, like Trump wouldn't have a chance. He wouldn't even have a chance in the primary, in the general, any of this. But the fact that it wasn't, and the fact that a lot of people see through the propaganda, is why he still got a chance. If we do want to watch that short, I did put in the document here, Dawson, on line 17. Just a quick little thing on Destiny to show that he's a beta male, but it's
all right,
just,
we'll go off topic here.
Yeah.
Let's go see how Destiny's a
I was
beta
gonna
male.
say, when it
we
comes-
didn't already know by what Dawson just revealed to us.
Yeah.
I was gonna say when it comes to Trump and like the transfer of power and stuff, I think that there's much more problematic stuff than January 6th was. The thing that I always look at and I'm like, I can't believe that happened was. Who I can't remember who Trump had called, but he was like, "We need to find this many votes, like this exact number."
That's
of votes.
taken way out of context. So
Yeah,
I'm going
you'd
to play
have to listen
Jesse's
to the
role
whole
here.
phone
That is
call.
ridiculous.
That was the Georgia Secretary of State, and
it was a perfect
yeah,
call, by
Trump
the
was
way.
basically saying, "There's all this fraud. There's all these dead voters. There's all these problems with ballots. Find me these votes because they're out there," is what he was saying.
Yeah.
But it's yeah.
You see,
but regardless,
but see, I don't really even blame you, Dawson. Now you work for new media, you work for us, so I mean you're getting the different side, but you're still obviously falling prey to the corporate media talking points here.
I don't watch corporate media.
No, I know, but it's obviously permeating social media or whatever way that you get it. But that's where you get those talking points. That is not something you're getting. Well, I guess you do listen to Destiny, so he's probably reiterating those talking points. But it's a ridiculous claim that they make. Everyone knows if you read that transcript what Donald Trump is talking about. They take this guy out of context all the time.
I think that
they've done
Donald
that from
Trump-
the
I think
day
that
one
Donald
when they
Trump-
said he called Mexican rapist.
I think that Donald Trump puts himself out of context a lot.
Well, there's no doubt he says things that are definitely, we all get that. But some of the big things that they go after him for, okay, I'll give you a really good case in point. I think we just covered this on the show a week ago or two. how they're saying Donald Trump is literally talking about being a dictator if he gets reelected.
Yeah.
And then we play the clip, and what are they all freaking out about?
It was a joke.
Yeah, actually, wasn't it Chris Christie? Yeah, Chris Christie said that in the debate. He's literally arguing that he's going to be a dictator. We have to take this serious. It's like, no, you can't take it serious. We play the clip. Donald Trump's clearly telling a joke. It's funny. And he goes, I'm going to be a dictator, and I'm going to close the border on day one. It's like...
Is the problem then that there's so many people that are taking his word as, like,
Literally.
gospel?
No.
Everything.
You're attributing confusion, I guess. There's malice here for sure. And it comes from this really strange disease, and we all see this called Trump derangement syndrome. I am not like some big Donald Trump fan. I'm very critical of Donald Trump. It makes for some great entertainment on the show with Jesse, because Jesse thinks it's always 4D chess or 17D chess, right? There's legitimate things to criticize Donald Trump for, okay? Like, for instance, he literally didn't drain the swamp. The swamp's even bigger and worse than it's ever been, okay? So, but it gets like lost because the left in this country and the rhino establishment right, by the way, they both get along very well on this topic. They hate Donald Trump. They actually hate MAGA people, for being honest. They really hate MAGA people, the people that really want to take back this country and get rid of these cronies in politicians, because that's what Trump stands for, at least to them. And so what they do is they just take everything out of context, knowing they're taken out of context to make it seem like Donald Trump is this monster.
Well, I mean, that's just media as a whole. That's tabloids. That's everything, yeah.
It's not just me, it's the political elite, which is exactly why you need a free and open press.
Yeah.
That's just going back to our first conversation we're having today. This is exactly why you have guerrilla journalism and you get in people's face, is because they're lying to you. You just admitted they lie to you, Dawson.
No, I didn't.
Did you not just say that the meat? I'm playing the Alex Jones
Yeah,
role.
you are.
I got him! Yes, I got him!
Yeah.
We're gonna play this back.
X, tell X that you said this.
Yeah, we'll tell X.
I still don't think guerrilla journalism is good. So I didn't.
But that's why you have guerrilla journalism, because you
could
just
say it's
said
not
the
good,
media
but
will lie about this
It
stuff.
can still be necessary if that's the only way that you can ask a question. It's
well,
necessary.
the chick can just lie when he's got the microphone in her face. What's going to stop her from doing that?
Sure, she can do that, but
But he doesn't. So because he's an independent journalist, he can still be a journalist and doesn't have that credentialed access that all the other journalists that you just literally admitted to. That's the game they play, lying and taking people out of context.
What did I admit
So
to?
it's because we have a free press that allows individuals who use those techniques to still be journalists and have that freedom, is why we need that process and why we need that kind of journalism.
Why did you say I admitted to anything?
You just literally said we could play back the tape there.
Well, but saying admitted is like the saying that I'm preconceived to be wrong.
I think you were wrong. If we go back, what do you think?
What was it that the media lies, right?
Razzle Dazzle says freedom of press, Dawson.
Read the one before that. It was funny.
Oh, yeah, there was one. Billy22 says Dawson is deep state. That is where he's getting these talking points. Project Mockingbird, Dawson. You on the 6 a.m. phone call, are you? Dawson says I wake up at 8.
By the way, we love Dawson here. Even if he is working for the CIA. All right, where did we? Oh, so you want to play this video of Destiny? All right, let's go to this video
I can't
of
believe
Destiny.
that this is the clip that you're showing. There are way better ones.
I know there's some better ones, but this is just an interesting one. You know, people should all watch this interview.
Right?
Yeah.
How did you get the name? Is that a lady name?
Yeah, kind of. I made it when I was like 9.
You call yourself Destiny?
Well, in real life, I call myself Steven, but
It's a
online,
stripper's
I go by
name.
Destiny. Yeah.
Oh, so your real name is Steven?
Yeah.
But online you pretend to be a woman?
No, I just have a feminine name, I guess.
Yeah, that's a girl name.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is.
Do they know you have a girl name online?
I don't think most people see it that way online.
Do they see Destiny as a male name?
I guess so, yeah.
Amazing. What made you take on a girl name online?
Well, it was a noun, and I was 9 years old, and I lived in Nebraska, so I didn't know any black people, so I'd never met a girl named Destiny before.
Oh, did you know Destiny was a girl name at 9?
Nope.
You thought it was a boy name?
No, I thought it was a noun that just sounded cool because I was 9 years old.
Amazing. Destiny.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, he actually doesn't look so obnoxious there, so it looks like when he was younger, it looks like he's just gone down the wrong lane.
There's so many. I think Jesse Lee Pearson's had him on a couple of times, and there's so many funny interview moments and clips and everything from calling him a beta male and whatnot. So people should check that out. I think
this was what I was talking about when I was saying he like reflects the person that he's arguing with. This dude was chill the whole time. He's chill the whole time. That's just a bad habit that he's picked up, I've noticed.
Let's go to Odd One's comment here.
He says, I think Dawson took the contrary position, and now he's backed into the corner and forced to defend it, even as it gets more ridiculous or tenuous.
Wait a minute. I gave an opinion that's differing to somebody else, and now I have to defend it? Whoa. That's how it works?
That's how it works. And by the way, you just answering to your bosses, we know who you're getting paid by.
At the end of the day, yeah.
All right, this is another one, Glenn Greenwald. This is a really good comment where he talks about how January 6th changed the legal game. This is actually something I think a lot of us, what do we call us, by the way? I don't want to just say conservative because then you get Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald's not a conservative, right? What are we? Are we like...
Outsiders?
Woke?
Yeah, anti-establishment.
Like red-pilled people? Like what are we? I don't know what that is.
Glenn Greenwald's not red-pilled. He's just a citizen. I'd say anti-establishment.
I think
anti-establishment. Okay, that's probably the best term right there. Anti-establishment. So us anti-establishment people do need to start worrying about the legal system. Let's hear what Glenn Greenwald has to say about it.
Glenn, finish this one off because then I have another question for you guys.
Yeah, the whole thing, like listening to them, honestly, it's like listening. I don't mean to be insulting. I'm just saying this. It's what it sounds like. Like
video.
7th graders who learn civics class and have this understanding of how the U.S.
What?
We don't have the video on the screen, by the way.
Oh, that's my bad.
Government works. Like, the FBI investigate and they discover crimes and then they go to the courts and the courts are very honest and the courts are apolitical and the courts make rulings and everything that has happened in January 6th. And you can even look at the people they picked and choose who to expand the law. The people who ended up getting prosecuted on felony counts, even though they were nonviolent, had these incredibly novel interpretations of law that were used against them to turn nonviolent demonstration and nonviolent political protest into felony by taking this post-Enron law and giving it a stretched meaning that it never had before. And the reason so many of them plead guilty is because they know that if they go into court, they're going to have rulings against them because a lot of these judges, especially in Washington, are not only Democratic Party judges, but the entire system is furious to watch people go and put their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. So the entire system decided that this has to be punished regardless of what the law provides. You had the FBI with their hooks inside all of these groups, but I do understand that if you believe in this like story of American propaganda, that the FBI is these upstanding law enforcement people and they don't do that and then the courts go and make rulings, then you're going to end up with this image of what the three of them have, which is this idea that this was one of the worst attacks in American history. The courts have ruled. Everything the government did in this case is consistent with their longstanding view before January 6th, that these groups are criminal groups. They need to be criminalized. Trump's movement is a threat to the United States, and the entire part of January 6th was designed to define them as an insurrectionary movement so that they could criminalize them, which is exactly what they're doing.
Okay. All right, let's cut it. So this is one of the arguments I've made for a long time. I have been suspicious and against increased power by the federal government in general, but especially in the presidential powers. And I like making this argument to people because it's like when it happens to someone on the left, so let's say Biden takes on new powers, okay? It's like, guys, do you really think Democrats are always going to be in charge? Because whatever powers you're giving now is going to go to someone on the right, like Donald Trump. You would think that the left would understand, because they call Donald Trump a tyrant. They call him a dictator. So it's like, why would you give the presidency more power ever, knowing that it's inevitably going to fall in the hands of a Republican at some point? And so I'm just generally against giving anyone more power. And these people on the left, it's like you're arguing for a system of government that's really unrecognizable. It's certainly not the American government we wanted.
Yeah, it was so
that's going to inevitably be used against you.
Right. The Democrats would call Trump Hitler, a dictator,
Correct.
a fascist. And meanwhile, what would they do? They would give him an increased military budget. They would give him more more executive authority over issues. And it's like, if you really thought that he was a fascist, you wouldn't be passing any of that crap. But it just shows that the Democrats don't even believe what they're claiming. They're just scared of Trump because he exposes the swamp.
Exactly. All right, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Go watch this. This is on Zero Hedge's Twitter account, and then don't go to Destiny's YouTube account. But
was it not on Rumble or any of those?
Yeah, it was on Rumble. Remember, we were having trouble playing it when we were looking for the clips, so maybe it plays from the beginning.
Rumble, fix your damn site.
Otherwise, on X. What'd you say?
I said Rumble, fix your damn site. I swear.
Well, we need Rumble because I don't think we would be able to have this conversation if we were resorting just to YouTube at this point. I don't think we could have this conversation. We'd think it gets taken down. So Rumble,
not as comfortably, no.
So yeah, Rumble's not quite there yet, but they're making some good improvements. So it's a good partner for us. Let's go through these stories here pretty quick, and then we'll end on Epstein because it's not a big important story. Oh, you know what? I forgot to add in here before we go to these other stories. There's a J.P. Morgan person that predicted Biden.
I saw that Biden's not going to be the nominee, that he's going to drop out.
Right.
To me, it's one of those things. Lots of people are saying that. I'm not sure if there's anything interesting about this J.P. Morgan executive.
The reason I brought it up was he said March, and we predict on this show. We've all had some predictions, but my thought, I think you were with me on this, is that they'll go to the convention and they'll get rid of him. But see, if they got through, so the idea is after March, the primaries have occurred, right? So it's still going to go to the convention. And I hadn't thought of this because I always thought they're going to go to the convention, they're going to pick Michelle Obama. And the reason they're going to do that is they need someone with instant name ID. But if they say that Biden has a health scare, I think that's what he was alluding to, then they can take the Gavin Newsom, and they've got March through November to explain who this guy is, right? And they could still rig the DNC convention, right?
Right.
Because they're going to rig the DNC convention. I think we all know that. They're going to go through the primary so that the other Democrats can't get into it, and then they're going to rig it. So it's an interesting prediction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I can see that happen.
Maybe. And yeah, I had just seen last night Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips had a debate in New Hampshire. I've watched most of it, not all of it quite yet, but I don't know. I probably agree that I don't know if the Democrats will actually put Biden in there, and the easiest way for them to change it all around would be with the DNC convention. So we'll see what goes on. I mean, I don't know for sure, and don't know if I got a real good prediction on it.
Okay, let's go quickly through these stories. Do we put the political? Yeah, pull up the political on SecDef. Lloyd Austin, this is a crazy story. I was in the military for 12 years, Army officer, and basically you don't go AWOL. AWOL is a big deal.
Yeah.
So if I was in command or in charge of troops, even if you're not, but especially when you are, then you always let your superiors know if you were to go somewhere, especially if you were having a procedure, and let your subordinates know. So you're the SecDef, so your superiors really are Congress and the president, and then if you're Secretary of Defense, your subordinates is the whole military apparatus, right? Which the Pentagon down to the soldier on the ground is millions of people, right?
Yeah.
Military is already like 1.5 million or 1.2 million or something like that. All right, so SecDef Lloyd Austin ends up having some surgery, and it says it was pre-scheduled. What do they call it? Elective surgery, which we don't know. I assume it's he's trying to transition.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Who knows what it is? Is it some cosmetic surgery? I don't know.
Tucker said somewhere in the comments. I think it was Tucker.
Tucker, right in the comments
said,
again.
I have to find it again.
Oh, you're gonna find it? Okay.
Oh, unless he wants to say it again.
Either one. Let's find what Tucker had to say.
Oh, he says prostate cancer and a UTI.
Urinary
Walter
tract
Reed
infection?
Hospital, reveals.
I mean, that makes sense. The guy's 70 years old, right? Long career in the military. He was a 4-star general, so.
Right. A little overweight.
Yeah. All right. So essentially, he has this elective surgery. Actually, UTI doesn't sound like elective surgery.
Yeah. Sometimes things are considered elective that aren't. Sometimes things are elective that are actually needed for your health. I don't know.
Healthcare in the
Well,
US.
prostate cancer wouldn't be elective either, Tucker. I think fake news, Tucker. Tucker's telling fake news. Do you have like a source on that, Tucker? I'm kind of curious. That I don't know if that makes sense. Unless elective surgery is fake news.
Yeah,
right?
quick. I'm seeing Brad's comment. It's Newsom. They're going to leave Kamala as VP. Actually, that's not going to happen because You can't have a president and VP from the same state because that would disqualify the electoral votes of that state. And especially with California, the Democrats cannot risk not winning California's electoral votes since Newsom and Kamala are both from there. It can't happen. So
there you go. You just got owned.
We'll have to figure out something else.
Brad, you just got owned. All right, there we go. So Lloyd Austin, this is if you go to this political story and just scroll down here real quick. It's a timeline. So starting on Friday, December 22nd, he gets surgery. He has complications on Monday, January 1st, and all the way up to I think yesterday, he was still in the hospital. He didn't tell the President of the United States. Congress didn't know, and his subordinates didn't know, and their only statement basically was the chief of staff was also sick.
Yeah.
So
and they still have all confidence in him, right? The Biden still has confidence in him, which is crazy. Apparently, Matt Rosendale has now filed articles of impeachment. Elise Stefanik is in support of that as well. That's the first step. I mean, obviously, like you're saying, for a military leader, especially the Secretary of Defense, the most important person within the military, if they're not willing to disclose when they need to have an operation done and why did he not do it, that seems very odd to me. Why wouldn't he just pass it along to his number two and just say, hey, I'm going to be gone. Mr. President, this is the situation. This is what's going on. I'm not feeling great. Exactly. It seems so strange to me because why would he not want to just
That's why I was assuming it's a sex change operation because he's got to be embarrassed. I don't know what else to think here.
Right.
No, it seems like it's an embarrassing. I'm all kidding aside. Something embarrassing because why else would you tell people? But now it's even worse because now everyone wants the answer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a UTI is pretty darn embarrassing.
Why is that embarrassing?
Because when was the last time you had to get a surgery for a UTI because you were so old?
Never.
I mean,
how old is he?
I just don't think a urinary tract infection is that.
Maybe he's too worried about being a big man, so he's got to hide it and go AWOL.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, like, imagine, like, let's say we had a terrorist attack happen while he was in the hospital and, and Biden doesn't know,
and
nobody
people
knows.
Don't know where he's at.
And nobody knows where he's at. And, it's one of those things, like, doesn't he have to be at the Pentagon every day? Doesn't he have like?
But he's got
what's going on?
He's got Secret Service or arm. No, he's not Secret Service, but some armed protection.
I'm sure, yeah.
So how does this not? I guess they would be able to find him.
So
quick.
Apparently, right? It was.
But
he
would be under.
He was saying that his chief of staff or his scheduler or whatever was the only person who was going to be able to tell the number two that they're in charge, which is crazy because exactly. There's not one person who can communicate that message. It's going to be lots of people within the Pentagon and whatnot. So he's claiming that his staffer was also sick, and maybe being in the hospital just slipped his mind. But I mean, like, I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. And I think that just because of this dereliction of duty, I think that he just served our country dishonorably in this moment, and he needs to go.
It's crazy. And then how do you have a standard for AWOL soldiers if you were doing this from the top?
Another $5. We have an active military operations going on currently. This guy can't go off the grid.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah. And what happens if something happens if they get attacked or something like that? It's crazy. In fact, there was a attack in Baghdad. We literally launched some military operation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because we really don't ever leave places, by the way.
Yeah.
And even when the military's ordered to leave places like Syria, they lie to the president. Mm-hmm. That's what they did to Trump, which is a crazy story. Let's go to this. So in the party of Biden, the Democrat Party, we have Gene Pawlowski, con artist, down in Winona, Minnesota, a district that could go red, could go Republican. One of 6 con artists. Now, when I say con artists, there were 6 Democrats in 2020 who read their electorate and said, oh, my God, my electorate do not want to be shut down by the governor of my party. And so they voted when the votes came up every month to get rid of Governor Walz's emergency powers. The election happens in November. There is a change. Well, not a change of command, but the numbers got better for Republicans. And so basically, when 2021 started, only 4 of these 6 people who were already voting against Walz's emergency powers had to keep voting that way. And Walz's powers have been overturned as long as that weakling Paul Gazelka in the Republican Senate were going to carry through with ending the orders. And that's not necessarily known at this point, right? They did it when they knew that the Democrats were going to vote against it, but I think we could have pushed and pressured them into doing it. So here are the 6 Democrats. Now, Gene Pawlowski joins Mark Ward, Eklund, Julie Sandstead, and Mike Sundin and no longer serving in the legislature. Obviously, Gene Pawlowski is going to fulfill the rest of his role this year, which is February through May. And then he's not going to run for re-election. Leaves one guy left, Dave Lizagard, basically in the Iron Range Republican-esque district. One more to go, guys. One more to go to get rid of these con artists. Now, I see Gene Pawlowski announces on Sunday, and the political class in Minnesota on both the Republican and Democrat side are praising this guy as if he's some kind of good, honorable man. Now, I'm just thinking, like, if you pulled this charade, how can you be honorable? Honestly, like, I'd love to hear the left's argument on this thing. They voted one way, and for no apparent reason, and COVID was clearly less damaging at that point in 2021, they do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
That is clearly a con, right? That is what we're supposed to hate in politics. It's people who do that. So we shouldn't be praising guys like Gene Pawlowski. Here's another one for you. Guess how long Gene Pawlowski's been serving? Bridget, Dawson, Jesse, you probably don't know, because guess what? You guys weren't even born for 14 years or something like that.
Is that actually true?
He took office in 1986. So if you go to Action for Liberty's article here, we write about this. Scroll down here real quick, Dawson. When Gene Pawlowski took office, scroll down a little bit more. Those are our lip pieces when we went after these guys. Let's see here. He was first elected for the Minnesota House in 1986 when the Chicago Bears were reigning Super Bowl champs. By the way, that was Super Bowl 20. James Brown's Living in America won Best R&B Vocals of the Year at the Grammys. And Ronald Reagan was president of the United States.
That's ridiculous.
That's insane.
You guys weren't even born yet.
Yeah.
That's when Gene Pawlowski took it. He's been there for 38 years.
That's unbelievable.
It's crazy. 19 consecutive terms in the Minnesota House. I think the people are behind, really strongly behind term limits. So both of this guy is a con artist and, basically rotted away for 4 decades in the Minnesota House as a politician. It's like, wow, this is the guy we're praising.
Yeah, and he pretended to be a moderate. There's so many votes, so many bills that disprove that. I mean, there was an education bill. I think it was him and Omar Fateh that were like, kind of the leaders on this whole thing. So, here he is partnering up with a socialist, to push an education plan. It's good to see Gene Pawlowski go because, like you said, he's a total scam artist. He's pretending to be one thing for his voters, but we exposed him to all of the people, and now he's gotten the message that he better get out of there because, his luck might have ran out.
You saying that fun fact about how long he's been in office got me thinking about Biden, and he has been in government stuff since 1972.
Right, and there's the problem.
I think that. When I'm elected president of the United States, I'm going to change whatever document to say that nobody older than 65 is allowed to be in a government position ever. Forced retirement. I'm for it.
I'm not with you there.
That's too bad. I'm going to be president.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm running against you then.
I'm
protecting the old people.
That would be so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm going to be dictator to make sure that no one over 65 gets...
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike Johnson, Speaker House is forcing a funding deal. I'm going to end this thing here, so we're not getting into that story, but you guys can read it for yourself. So
yeah, I've heard some mixed things, so maybe we'll talk about it next time because I want to. I've heard some mixed things. Some people are saying it's a good deal. Some people are saying it's the worst deal ever. So I'm thinking I'd like to see.
It's not the best deal ever.
Yeah,
That's
right,
a ridiculous
exactly.
comment. No,
but
not a chance.
I think it might be time for Matt Gaetz to pull another Kevin McCarthy on him. It sounds like Mike Johnson's not fighting for us.
Right.
So time to go.
All right, then we got Epstein files. Trump is named. That's what the media is running with. What a goofy story that is. But basically, I want your comments. We'll get to that story on Thursday because I think more Epstein files will drop. This is what I said last week. I just don't believe for a second that we're going to find something significant from these Epstein files. The biggest thing right now is seems like Stephen Hawking went to Epstein's Island.
Yeah, there's some crazy memes about that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we have not a credible source now accusing both Bill Clinton. So it's mudding up the whole process, to be honest with you. And honestly, if someone literally was what we call a client of Jeffrey Epstein, screw that person. That person go to be imprisoned and not run for office ever, right? But now the whole process is muddied up, and I kind of think there are people behind that planning it that way. But I don't know. We'll get in that story here. I'm sure you guys are seeing that everywhere else. Everyone else is talking about it, so I don't know if we need to talk about the Epstein files because, quite frankly, the most important question on Epstein is who the hell was that guy working for? And I feel like we're never going to answer that question. Just like you would think with a global pandemic that cost trillions of dollars and 7 million lives, we would ask, how did that get leaked from a lab or where did it originate? And we don't have a desire to find out that damn question either.
Yeah.
So thank God for new media. That's why I want to put money and time and energy into things like The Truth Hurts, new media, because the corporate media is never going to tell you these stories. There's a very infamous scene, Dawson, you could watch that too. ABC reporter had the story on Jeffrey Epstein way ahead of everyone else other than Alex Jones, and she was told to kill the story by the ABC execs. They wouldn't let her run the story, and she's like reminiscing on this on camera, and she goes, they killed my story, and she was so mad about it. It's like, exactly. Corporate media is not getting to the bottom of a lot of very important things. Anyhow, thank you guys for joining us today. All the people doing the Rumble rants, the comments, you guys make the show work. Thank you, Bridget, for being here again. Wish you were here on Thursdays, too, but she's only able to do Tuesdays, so... Tushi, there you go.
William or Tushi, yeah.
Yeah, seats open on Thursdays, Tushi. Jesse, thank you again. Deep State Dawson. Make sure if you haven't liked this on Rumble, Twitter, or whatever else we're showing on, make sure you like it. Even if you're watching after the fact, tells more people to watch it. And we'll be back right here on Thursday with another episode. Take care.